Hello everyone, thank you so very much for joining me today for this weekly community show. I do have a special guest, and if you have any question related to the lore or the quest, it is the right episode. Today, Grimnir, aka Larson, is with me, a writer, and we are going to dive deep into the lore. Let's get started. Hello, wait, Grimnir, hi! How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm fine, thank you so much. So, you are a writer, you are writing all the quests in Embers Adrift, or most of them?
Not all of them, most of them, yeah, not all of them. Have some help.
And you have released 5 new quests last week during the patch?
Yes, we had quite a collection of them, and big shout out to the tech team for getting those put in the game. It's a lot more work than just putting the words together. There's a lot of implementation that goes on that takes time. So big shout out to them for taking the time to get all those put in for us.
So that's really great. So today we're going to speak about your point of view related to those quests and what you want to do and etc. But first I would like you to introduce yourself to the community.
Hello, I'm Wade Larson. I go by Grimnir if I'm in live. And I am the narrative designer for Embers Adrift, and I try to make up all the fun characters and stories that you can interact with and hopefully enjoy interacting with.
Nice. Now, as a player of Embers Adrift, what do you enjoy most about the game and what are you doing in the game?
I like the community moments you get, you know, even if it's in a group, you know, actually doing content or just people in conversation together, talking about, you know, the game, what they like, what they don't like, helping each other out. I think that is, you know, really the heart of the game, and I think that's always been, you know, the focus is making it something that feels like a community that you can be a part of and work together with other people. And I think the game shines brightest when we hit that just right.
Yes, I very much agree with you. So, and that's probably the biggest comment we have from people that enjoy the games, that the community is really nice. They are meeting new friends and they're building those relationships, which is fantastic because that's exactly what we wanted to do with Embers Adrift. It's the reason why we created that game specifically. So when it works, it's nice.
Great.
So now, what is your favorite class?
I'm partial to the Berserker. I just, you know, the class fantasy of just being the wild warrior that swings the fences has always been kind of my favorite. So yeah, that's where I like to stay. Although I will dabble with the warden.
And that's the kind of classes you were playing in other game as well? The big warrior and the barbarian and...
Yep, dual wielding, 2-hand swords, the biggest, strongest stick you can find in the game to hit somebody with. It's tends to be the class I have the most fun with.
Okay, I have another question for you. Do you like Conan the Barbarian?
Yes, I do. I haven't watched the movie in a long time, but yeah, I'm a fan.
Okay, so that's where that come from, maybe.
It's probably something I saw it when I was like a kid and got inspired.
Yeah, okay, that's really nice. So that will be a good thing to discuss about, but we will keep it for a little bit later when we reach the topic of the week, which is where you're inspiring yourself from, etc. But first, we have some important business to do, which is reading the patch note, obviously. So this week we do have a hotfix Undone has shared with me all of the information, so we're going to read that in a moment. Hotfix May the 14 fixed an issue where player armor class will not exceed 1000. Fixed a color issue with female scale greaves and wreath. Fixed an issue where returning non-subscription player, those who have not logged in since the start of our extended free trial, were not able to receive mail because the Postmaster General thought they were trial player. Yeah, several person has been affected by that, so Aura apologize for these guys. Now it should be fixed for you. Lingering strikes no longer consumes ammo. Added OK text to confirmation dialog button that were previously blank if previously used for another function. And added more logging during player startup to help diagnose 95% loading issue for some player, which is a bug that is bugging us for a while now and bugging some of you. So we are trying to figure out what's going on there. So that's it for the hotfix. So you will have a small patch after this maintenance and all of that will be in. Thank you very much. And that's it for the patch notes today. Alright, we have a lot to talk about. So first, let's dive deeper into the quests that we have released last month. So some of them are pretty unique. It was the first time you were writing and composing such quests. So let's dig up with the, of course, without spoiler, obviously, the puzzle quest, the mystery quests. Yes. Which doesn't seem to have been solved. I'm not really sure about that. I don't think it has been solved yet. So
I thought I saw one person said that it had been solved by the community, but I cannot confirm or deny that.
Yeah, maybe Zig and his friend have been, but he has been extremely careful to not spoil anything. Which is really nice. It's nice that the community is respecting the spoilers and really try to preserve that effect of surprise.
Yeah, that's great.
So what was your idea with that quest?
So with that one, one of the things I try to do in the quests is have a variety. Some of them are pretty straightforward, some of them are tutorials, some of them are to get people to explore a zone, some of them are smaller stories within a zone, a single zone, or some are larger stories about the broader lore of the whole world. And in an effort to bring a little more variety, I thought it might be fun to do kind of a treasure hunt. And so that evolved into these riddles to guide players along to find different locations, and then eventually lead to the treasure reward itself at the end of the quest. So I wanted to do something different, and I don't think we've done anything quite like this in the game before. So I knew that if we could do something like this, and if it was popular and successful, we could look at something like this in the more in the future. But just really wanted to have a very different quest objective for players, give them something to chase that doesn't necessarily require them. There's no gather quantity of scales. There's no kill 15 marauders. It's just here's a clue, go find where the clue leads, and that's all there is to it. But the question is, where does the clue lead, and can you find that spot? So I'm glad to see that people have been working together, trying to suss it out, and that if people have figured out that they're leaving it up to other players to find it for themselves. I want to make sure it's the community solving it. I'm not going to give out any clues or spoilers because it's mystery. You got to solve it, and hopefully players enjoy the chase as something that they can do that's a little different from just the usual grind or mob hunt.
Yes, absolutely. And this quest is soloable, right? So it's a quest you do not need to be in a group to solve, if I understood correctly.
Theoretically, yes. I wouldn't say it's solvable or not solvable. I would just say there are no kill objectives.
Okay.
However, we are in a world full of dangerous creatures, and some of those clues may take you into areas with dangerous creatures. So, in that sense, you might have to do a little bit of fighting, but it is not required to complete the quest.
Yes.
But you know, something might get in your way along the way.
Yeah, it depends. So that's really
Mhm.
cool. So that's the puzzle quest, and this is one of the reason we didn't wanted our quest to give experience to player, because when the experience are given through quest, player will feel those quests mandatory. So those quests are very much optional. Do you like to solve the riddle? Then do the quest. Do you hate to solve the riddle? Then skip it and don't break your head on it. It's not worth it. So it's really allow you more freedom also to be creative with those quests, right? Is it a little
and I
bit
think
what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with some of these quests, you know, what we want players to be able to do is not feel like they have to do it in one sitting, in 1 hour, in one go. You know, especially with like this riddle quest. Take the quest. You know, explore the world. If you maybe you'll see something in your journeys that will be like, hey, wait a minute, that gives me an idea. And that was kind of the idea with this one, is we didn't want it to be something that you felt like you had to do straight through in one sitting. We wanted to feel like something that you can, you know, poke at for a little bit. If you can't find anything, oh, well, I'll come back to it. And then maybe just in the regular process of your journey, you might come across something that sparks an idea and say, wait, this might be the place. So we wanted it to be a little bit more casual, in the sense that, you know, like I said, it's, like you said, it doesn't grant experience. It's just there for a fun side activity if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But I recommend, you know, take it and then see if maybe you stumble across something along the way. And if you don't finish it, well, you know, there's not the worst thing in the world, but at least give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And you underline a really good point, which is the fact that those quests do not need to be solved right away. And I think that there's still a lot of players that feel because they have taken a quest, they have to get it done as fast as possible because they have done this task. So they feel this kind of urge of getting it done. While a lot of the quests that are more extended that you have been writing are something that you can take along and you don't have to complete it right away. You can complete it as you go, which is a little bit the stories with the Mary 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mary 5 is one that it's very very near and dear to my heart. I like that one. I think it was one of the better stories I've written for the game, and I spent a long time working on it. It's been in some form of progress for probably over a year now.
Oh, nice.
And so, you know, really trying to make sure that I got the story where I wanted it, working with the, you know, the tech team to make sure that we could get the elements of it into the game. You know, it was one where it was designed to take more time. It was designed to have more rare spawns that you need to find, you know, rare drops that you need to find. It was designed that you can't do it, like I said, in the 1 hour. I mean, it starts at a very low level and it ends at a very high level. So the idea was that this is something that you would take on your journey with you and kind of chip away at as you go. And so far the feedback we've seen seems to suggest that people enjoyed that. They enjoyed having something that was a little bit longer, went to some different places, challenged them to find some harder to get, you know, drops or mobs. And so, you know, I'm glad people seem to enjoy that. And I think, you know, having played, you know, all kinds of RPGs, MMO or single player, you know, it always feels like the impulse is to do the side quests as soon as you go. I mean, World of Warcraft, you go to the hub, you get 10 quests, you go do them all, you turn them all in, and that's just what you do. That's the cycle. That's just their loop. Maybe you do a dungeon every once in a while. But that is not the loop that we want. We want the journey itself to be the loop, so that you don't feel like you just go from one hub to the next, do the objectives and then go turn it in. So I wanted to write quests where you don't necessarily just do that. There's some of that in shorter quests that you can do them in basically one sitting, but the intent is generally that we want to give players something that goes on the journey with them, in the sense that it's not just, oh, here's a quest, I gotta go do that, I gotta postpone what I was doing to go do this quest. No, it's the quest joins you, and then along the way you complete it in the regular process of your journey. So it's a little bit different philosophy, and players may engage with that in different ways. I can't tell somebody how to go about questing. So if somebody does want to, immediately drop everything to finish a quest when they get it, because they want the reward or they just want the sense of completion, I get that. I've been that way. So I understand that. But our goal is to try and get, or my goal at least, is to try and get players to slow down and engage with the world, not just try to find the most efficient path to the next power upgrade. So I hope that some of these quests are helping players feel like they're part of a world, and that they are engaging with it in a sense more than just, what's the next power up.
Yes, and when it comes to the quest of the Mary 5, it is like an epic chain quest. Epic in the sense of the scope of the quest. I'm not speaking about the super extra mythical weapon you will get at the end. That's not what I'm saying. Those are other quests that will be in the game later. But it is something that, if you are a leveling player, you cannot finish it in one go. If you're a high level player, yes, you could, because then you're higher level. Because that quest is kind of supposed to accompany you through your journey as you progress through the game. That was a little 100%. Bit the idea.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And, it starts at a very simple, level 4 with a very simple task. And then it evolves into something bigger from there. And that was very much the idea, both in terms of the challenge of the quest from a gameplay perspective, and also from the kind of the story that's told within that quest. As I wanted it to feel like it starts off something super small and minor, but then it opens up this broader story of, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it opens up a broader story that players can follow through and hopefully feel like they're having some meaningful engagement with the characters along the way. And, having seen the rewards, I will say I think the rewards are pretty fantastic. I wouldn't say they're, not an epic quest in the sense that we think of with like EverQuest or something like that, but they are certainly very, very worthy rewards for quests that is designed to be long and challenging, and hopefully the reward at the end is commensurate with the effort.
Nice. So I do have a question that I will ask you so you can answer it immediately. So Fitzrun is asking, some quests need to be completed early or the reward will be obsolete by the time you receive it. So what would you say to this kind of comments?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I would say that is, by design, we try to target the reward to the challenge of the quest. So if the quest has you fighting level 10 mobs, the quest reward is going to be commensurate with that, in the sense that it's going to be a level 10 reward. So we want the rewards, and Adrift can obviously speak more to this, since he is the one who does pretty much all this. I work with him to help kind of give ideas for what I think the rewards should be, and help with the flavor, like naming some of them, adding the flavor text, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, he is the one who designs it, and we do tend to have rewards try to be on par with the level of the end of the quest. So if you start a quest and you have to kill level 20 mobs, but then there's another couple steps, and by the end you're killing level 28 or 30 mobs, we want the quest reward to feel appropriate for level 28 or 30. Now, the bummer is for some players, if you're already level 40 and you go back and do a quest, and it's level 20, you're going to get a level 20 reward, and that's probably not going to be something that is going to go into your kit because you're 20 levels higher than that. But we had to kind of pick where that goes, and for us it became, okay, we're going to do it assuming that there's a new player coming through, they're engaging with the content at the level that is appropriate to that quest, and they're finishing it at those levels appropriate to the quest. Is that going to work for everybody? No, but we have to pick a system, and that is the one we decided that makes the most sense, is that just if you're playing from scratch, you're going to come through this content as you travel. It's going to be level appropriate, and the rewards you get are going to be level appropriate when you finish them.
Yeah, that makes absolutely sense. And it's also important to mention that quest rewards are really good to gear up, but it's not the only way to gear up yourself. So most equipment, of the best quality of equipment, will be still found unnamed. That's also something that has been intended. So the quest reward is like, meanwhile, I'm not getting my Glen chests from Glen that doesn't want to drop. I have this nice chest piece that I earned through this patrolling Northreach or whatever it could be, type of thing. So the quest reward are kind of a stepping stone between the named boss, where you can have luck or no luck, or persistence or no persistence, depending on how you take. So it is not the only way of gearing yourself up. So sometimes a quest reward might not be working for you, and that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, but the nature of that is we want it to be guaranteed. So if you're trying to find a rare spawn like Glen, it may be doesn't spawn, or if it does spawn, it drops. You don't win the roll. You spent that time. You might feel frustrated. Oh, I spent 2 hours trying to get this breastplate and I didn't get it. You might feel like, oh, on some level you wasted that time. Yeah, I think the idea with the quest is that we want them to feel like a guaranteed drop, in the sense that yes, it puts you out into the game and has you go, and sometimes you'll go and kill 15 marauders, and then that's you get the experience from that. That's the goal, is to get players into these areas fighting mobs, getting the experience, and then as a side bonus, if you finish the quest, then you get a nice little item. And so it's kind of icing on the cake in some cases. I will say with the Battle of the Murray 5, I feel like that reward is the whole cake itself. It is a good reward. So I encourage people to finish that one, because I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Okay, that's great. So we have another question or comment from Levi. Grimnir, I am sorry in advance, but does it bother you to know that some players skip through all the dialogue and run out in the world blind to complete it? How dares they?
Oh man, yeah, I can't control that. I have said this before in other places, and I'll say it again. I think there are two types of players when it comes to these kind of games. And even in my own family, my brother is a big gamer himself. And whenever we play something like World of Warcraft together, he is shooting straight through. Just give me the objective. Where do I go? What do I need to kill? Bing, bang, boom. Let me get it done as fast as possible. I, on the other hand, like to stop and smell the flowers along the way. I enjoy the dialogue. I enjoy, even more since I've been working on this project, because now I appreciate how much time and effort goes into making those stories in games for people. So I like to sit, I like to read, I like to know why my character is gathering 15 blood flowers or whatever it is. I want to know the background. I want to hear the story of these NPCs, because I know somebody wrote it, and also because I think it adds another layer of immersion to the world that I'm playing in. But I know some people don't necessarily like that. It's not their cup of tea. They just want to know the objective. And so you may notice in some of the quests, particularly the ones that get a little bit heavy on the backstory, there is sometimes an option for the player to pick the dialogue that says, I don't care, just tell me what you need. So I've purposely built that option into several of the quests because I know sometimes players don't want the whole story. They just want to know what they need to do. And that's fine. I like to stop and read the words and smell the roses, but I know it's not for everybody, so I can't tell you how to play the game. I can just make content and hope that you enjoy it.
So that's pretty nice because we have always said that the purpose of the quest was to give lore mostly. So it's to give context to the player, to give a little bit depth about our world because we are building a world. There's a lot of story going on, and the only way to share those stories are through NPC dialogue or little lore drops or the quests, and that's where you will have context. What is the city about? Why are the ranger going this way? Why is the Highlands Hills burn? There's plenty of context about it, and the only way for players to know about that is to actually read the text and all the information that you will find. But we know that there is some people that don't like that. Is there a lot of quests where the instruction are like, beside the puzzle quest, which obviously is a puzzle quest, but in the other quest, if you don't read the quest, you kinda in problem. You are in trouble because you don't know what to do and you don't know where to go.
Yes, I'm sure there are instances of that. As we've developed the game, the style has changed. We're a small team, I was fairly new to this whole process when I came on board, so learning how to write quests is something that I've been developing. So I think that, the newer ones are a little bit better, but certainly there are cases where, the clue is in the dialogue and it tells you what you need to do or where you need to go. And if you skip all that, you might not know. So we try to have, within the quest log, things like, Bob said I should go to Northreach to look for this. And so it specifically can tell you in the quest log, and it's not just find Jeff. No, Bob said go to Northreach, look for Jeff at Raven Rock. So it's something where we try to be a little more specific in there. But at the same time, some quests we don't want to hold the player's hand. We want the player to have to do a little work, a little exploring, a little figuring it out, a little sleuthing of their own. So sometimes it'll be just, I don't know, this person might be in Red Shore Forest. Good luck. And then they have to go and find that person. So there's a little bit of variety. It depends on the quest, I think. But we do try to have, and sometimes if you go back to the NPC who's given you the objective, they will have a dialogue option to say, where should I look again? And they'll reiterate some of those instructions. So we try to have those options available. If you get a quest, you do part of it, you log off and you go on vacation, you come back 2 weeks later, and you're like, oh, where was I on this quest? We want the journal to be able to tell you, here's what's going on, here's where you need to go next, in case you forgot. So it's not just that people aren't necessarily reading it. Sometimes you go away for a little while. When you come back, you need a refresher on what's going on. So we try to provide those tools and clues just to make sure that players can continue. But it's not every time. But we try.
That's a very good point. So this is something that player might ignore. So in case you stumble upon a player that have this type of question, the quest log always summarizes after every step, there's a little summary of the step you are in. So a little reminder. To that end, Antrix is saying, I wish we could have a backlog to read the quest after taking it. Sometimes because of grouping, I get sometimes rushed to skip reading at that point in time. So what would you say about that?
I totally understand that. I've been in the positions like that before where I'm with somebody and they're doing the rush ahead, and so I miss some crucial bit of dialogue that I was looking for. I think it's a fantastic idea. I don't know what it would take to implement, and I'm not going to promise anything, but I will suggest it to our team and see what they think of it.
There we go. Okay, Zig is asking a question. Which makes making mistake on choosing quest rewards? Oh no, okay, I'm reading the previous comment. So Elloa, I feel like that's true until level 30 plus, which is you can find other rewards than the quest rewards. Then most of the best weapons come from quests. I'm sure that will change when we get more named 30 plus too. Which make making mistake on choosing quest reward extra punishing. Do you all ever intend to let us do a quest over? That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Our quest system is pretty complex, right? Because we wanted to give the opportunity to players to have a little bit more of this roleplay feel where they can choose one response to an NPC, maybe putting themselves into a different path. So you do have quests that branch out with different paths, different journey through the quest, and of course different outcome and different reward. Can you speak a little bit about that point, because I think that's pretty important, especially as it's pretty rare in the MMORPG genre. I don't think we have a lot of that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I totally get what the questioner was saying about feeling like I made the wrong choice, I got the wrong reward. There's no way now for me to go back and get that good reward that would be, highly desirable, for my build. I understand that is frustrating, but we had to kind of make a choice on how we wanted to proceed with the quest system, and we did want to give players some agency, some choice, like Elloa said, some role play flavor where you can kind of choose. Do I want to be a jerk to this NPC? Do I want to be altruistic to this NPC? And maybe that sets you on different paths depending upon which choice you make. We want the rewards at the end to generally be worthwhile no matter what you choose. Sometimes there are quests that you can kind of make a choice that says, I'm gonna just be done here. There may be another step you could do, it's optional, but if you choose to say I'm done, then you might get a not as good reward unless you otherwise taking, like, say, okay, I'll take the extra step and do this next objective. My hope is that people always do the longest version of the quest because we want them to have that reward, but it feels like if we give players some role play choice in that, they have a little more agency over how they interact with the world, what choices they make. Now, maybe players aren't necessarily interested in that. Maybe they just want more, of the straightforward, linear, one path, no choice quests. We have a little bit of variety of both. We're trying out different things constantly to see what people like. But as for the quest, redoing the quests, while I like the theory of it, in practice, I do not think it would be good for the game, because then you could just go do the same quest over and over and get this, all the rewards. If there's 6 rewards for a quest, based on your choices, and you can go get all 6 of them, that takes the consequence out of the choice. So we want the choice to have a little bit of consequence. Obviously, we're not going to try and lock you out of the quest entirely if you make a choice. I don't think there's any quest that we have that you fail, essentially. All of them have a way back in. If you make a choice that boots you out of the dialogue, there's a way back in. So I sympathize with the idea that I didn't get the right item, but we also want the game to feel like there is a little bit of consequence to your choices, and if you can do all of versions of it, there's no consequence.
Yeah, that's also technically quite difficult to put in place.
That too, yes. It's also technically difficult.
Which is
based on our system.
Exactly. It's the reason why we cannot abandon a quest. Well, I really understand the player that will just want to abandon a quest. So it's out. I don't want to do this quest, but you have to keep it in the log, and that is a technical aspect of it because we have complex quest system. We cannot or we have not found the elegant solution to that problem yet. Maybe one day we will have a brilliant idea and then we will be able to implement it. So we're very aware of the I cannot abandon my quest problematic. Now for the quest reward, that's completely different, but it ties also into technicalities that is pretty difficult to put in place, even if we understand the thing.
And you know, it's not just that it's technically difficult; it's that it's also time consuming for our tech team to implement. So it's certainly, and some of these things are on our wish list for things we'd like to be able to do, but there's just higher priority things that we have people working on. You know, new zones, new dungeons, new quality of life systems like the mail system. You know, those things take priority over some of the things. So you know, whenever I see people say, "Oh, well, they can just do this," it's not always that simple. You know, we have a limited amount of time in each patch to get new things out. We're constantly developing new things, trying new things, wanting to make the game better every month. You know, the reason we had a lot of quests this month is because there was a bit of a backlog. We had spent the previous couple months really working on content and quality of life updates. And so the quests kind of got put on the back burner. So this month we had several of them that we were able to get into the game because they've been kind of, you know, piling up in the queue. So it's a matter of having enough time to get everything in. And, you know, we have to pick and choose what we want to prioritize. And sometimes we have to put other things on the back burner while we try and work on something that we think is more urgent.
Yes,
Not that we don't think that players' requests are important or that we don't agree with a lot of them. We just have to pick where we invest our time wisely so that we can get the most out of the game and provide the most value to the most players.
Yeah, very nicely said. This is something I repeat every week. But thank you to put it in other words, so I really hope the message is going through. In the same subject, Tyrant Tracker is saying, I love the idea of choices having impact, but obviously giving people the feel bad isn't something that is desired. So we have been working on quests at the beginning of the development of this game in a certain way. We have things have evolved since then. Is there some lesson you have learned yourself as a quest reader, as a narrative designer, related to those type of interaction? I'm thinking maybe with Aileen, which is the missing apprentice quest, or those kind of quests that have really different branch. Are you developing things differently now?
Oh, absolutely. I would say that, you know, there's probably going to be continue to be a mix of, you know, some that are a little more choice based and some that are a little more linear. And I, you know, like I said earlier, I think that's kind of one of the important things to me is to provide a variety. So maybe, you know, if you had a quest with some choices and you didn't like the outcome and you weren't really satisfied with it, well, hopefully right next to it, you know, is another quest that's a little more linear, a little more straightforward, that has, you know, 3 to 6 rewards you can choose from that are all, you know, maybe 2 of them are, you know, really designed for your build that you can choose from, and so that you can choose the best reward regardless of the quest, because it's more of a linear, straightforward. So I think we'll continue to evolve that, and you know, the feedback is great. I love when players say, "Hey, I like this, but this part of it isn't great." That helps us say, "Okay, well, what do we need to adjust to provide the best experience?" Because that's what we want to do at the end of the day. We want the game to be fun. We don't want players to have the disappointed feeling of, "Oh, I missed something and now I can't go back and get that." Which is why we have, you know, a variety of ways to get equipment. So if you do a quest and it's like, oh well, I didn't get the reward I was hoping for. Hopefully there's either another quest or a rare mob that you can go out and find something that would be a suitable alternative to that. So we don't want to lock you in to say, there's only one way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you miss it, tough luck. We want to give you options to say, well, if you miss that opportunity, there's another one over here, and make it so that players can find value in different places. So that's the way I look at it. But I also like the idea, like I said, of giving players choices in certain quests, and then those choices having consequences. But yeah, I understand the sentiment, and I do appreciate that feedback.
Yes, totally. But at the same time, sometimes if we have really roleplay quests, sometimes you're bound to take the option where you're disappointed of the outcome. Oh, I was hoping to save guard Brian, but I make the wrong choice and now guard Brian is dead. That happens sometimes, and that's a little bit what happened when you do roleplay. So I'm pretty sure there's plenty of things happening like that in Baldur's Gate 3, where I'm like, why did I choose that? Should I not?
Let me revert my save and go make a different choice.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
there's no reverting saves here.
Here there is no save, so you cannot redo it.
Or you can make an alt and go try it again.
Yeah. Yes, you have the alts that didn't safeguard Brian, and then you have the one that did save him. So I remember that really at the beginning of the release of the game, we had a few quests, or we had one quest at least, where you could really piss off NPCs, and then no reward for you. Is that kind of concept still going to be applied, or are you finding some more soft alternative, some more soft consequence basically into the quest that you are actually developing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. There was some ways to, in some of the early iterations of some of the quests, there was ways to essentially fail. What we realized pretty quickly is that that's no fun. So ever since then, we haven't really done any kind of true fail. Sometimes if you anger an NPC enough, they might not want to talk to you, in which case you might have to talk to somebody else to advance the quest. Alternatively, they might change the objective. So if the original objective was to collect 10 shiny stones, but you make them angry, they say, well, now I won't advance the quest unless you give me 20 shiny stones. So the quest objective doesn't really fail, but it can change the objective, or it can change the trajectory of the quest, in which case you might finish the quest with a different NPC because you've angered the first one. But I don't do a ton of that. I like having some choices where players can kind of make a choice in the dialogue that may send them on a slightly different path, but I don't want them to fail. I don't want them to not be able to complete the quest. We want people to be able to finish it and get to the conclusion regardless of the choice. And one of the things that we have to consider too is that, unlike a Baldur's Gate where it's a single player game, the game state can change, NPCs can die, your consequences can have choices that live well into the later game. And an MMO is essentially a static world. We have to maintain the status quo. So you can't have a situation where an NPC you're interacting with dies, because they still need to be there in the game. So it limits some of our ability to tell really dynamic stories, but I still think that we can tell some really interesting stories within that framework, and that's why we try to give players some choice, is that it's not as much of a choice as your Baldur's Gate 3, because it's just not possible, and with just the way the game is because it's a multiplayer, it has to be everyone's in there. But we still want to give people some choices, some dynamic content where they can kind of choose a path, but without ever truly locking anyone out of it.
Absolutely. Another question from Fitzron. Is it possible to have quest rewards that increase in value as you level? Or is plan obsolescence become valueless after so many levels to be the long-term plan for all gear? And I think that goes well with the epic quests.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another question
Yeah.
related to the epic quest, which is, will the epic quest be the same for every class with different reward upon completion, or will it be a different quest per class? So we can mash up those two questions and speak about the epic quests that are being worked on.
I cannot give you too much specifics because it's still in progress and some things may be subject to change. As for general quest rewards, I think a lot of those will be static. That's just kind of the nature of how an MMO goes. Is there's, you get a reward. It is what it is. Unless we introduce things like socketing or enchantments, which change the properties, which I do not believe is on any kind of roadmap for us right now. That's really a question for Adrift. He's the guy who does all of the equipment and balancing and making sure that everything is appropriate for the level that you get it at and fits into the giant spreadsheet that I'm fairly certain he keeps as far as how all that stuff balances out. So that'd be a really good Adrift question, but I think for now they are most weapons are not going to be changeable. Now, the epic quest, I can't get too much into it, but because some of this may subject to change. So do not quote me in 6 months when you're doing the epic quest and saying, well Grimnir said this. It's still a work in progress. We are discussing the possibility of having weapons that grow with you in that part as part of the quest, that you would be able to upgrade certain weapons. How that's going to work, we're still working on it. So again, don't quote me on that. It's something that's been discussed. I cannot say for certain if that will be the final vision. As for the quest itself in the class fantasy, yes, you will get a class specific quest. I don't want to go too much into the details because I don't want to spoil it, but yes, there will be some class fantasy elements to that quest that we are excited to bring to players.
All right, that's really cool. So thank you guys for all of your questions related to the quest mechanic and such. Now I want to go a little bit more about the lore, and so how you create the lore aspect of the quest, what is inspiring you, and what are your favorite part about Embers Adrift lore?
Oh, let's see. We'll start with the first part there. So the lore is very much a collaborative process between everyone who works in the game. We have new areas or new places, and then a lot of the story is built from the world as it's designed. So the design team, they make a new zone, they populate it. They put in NPCs or villages or camps of enemies. Grizzled Peaks is a fantastic example. We put in a friendly village, we put in a hostile village, and then we decided, okay, well, who are these people? What are they doing out here? What stories do they have? And so for me, a lot of it is just being in the world and saying, okay, well, why are these people here? What is it about this place that made them come here? And then you get something like the Wildren, which are, a faction that's basically neutral. And they're just out there on their own, doing their own thing with their own story. They have their own little city, their own little ways. And we wanted to explore their kind of community culture. And that kind of evolved naturally from just being in that place, thinking about the NPCs, why they're there, what they want, how do they interact, and the stories just kind of naturally evolve out of those conversations and being in those places. some of the lore we tie back to older things. We have, the Vahuramen and their relationship to the world. We have the others and their relationship to the world, and how do those things interact, and how do they interact with the people. So we really do a lot of collaborative thinking about what are the spaces in the world like, what are the people who live there going to experience, and how is that reflected in their character. What was the second part of the question?
Well, what were your inspiration related to how you do the your ID?
I longtime fan of science fiction and fantasy. Huge Lord of the Rings nerd. I like mythology. I like history, and so I blend all those things that I've kind of picked up along the way to try and get a kind of a blend of ideas. Sometimes an idea for a particular bit of lore will be based on some historical precedent, something that comes from history and says, well, in history it happened like this, so why couldn't it happen similarly for this group of people? And that's why they are the way they are, because of this event or historical thing. Some elements of science fiction, the idea of Ember itself and what it can do is kind of based on a little bit of science fiction. Like, okay, what is this magical element that can do so much? Well, it can kind of do a little bit of everything. It can kind of do whatever we need it to, but we also need to stay within a certain framework of in-world properties to make it feel not realistic but believable.
Mm-hmm.
And then certain element of obviously it's a kind of a low fantasy style game, so you get your kind of your hard low fantasy novels that I really big fan of, where it's a little more grim and gritty, or a little bit less swords and sorcery, and more just swords and more swords. So all those influences come together to impact the stories I tell and how I tell them. And sometimes I like to do some that are really grounded in the world, and some that are a little more odd, and maybe make people question if there's more to this world than meets the eye.
Yeah, that's the best things, because Embers Adrift is all about having a world which is slowly revealing itself to the player. At first it starts a little bit mundane, it's intended. I know that sometimes it turns off some player, oh, this is very mundane, but there's more to it. If you have the patience, if you have the dedication, and you go beyond the North Wall and you explore, you will see that there is more to it. And it's not something really easy, I think, to really share, because it's pretty subtle. We're not putting stuff in the face of the player. We need to excite their curiosity and their desire of going further. So how are you doing that to really give a little bit of information, not too much, but still enough to really grab the attention of players?
Yeah, I think there's a variety of ways we do that. Some quests are very lore heavy and very explicitly explain why something is or how something is, and some of that is, you can talk to NPC. Sometimes it's not even a quest. You can just ask somebody about something, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll tell you all about Ember or the Vahuramen or this or that. You can just ask NPCs and they will tell you. Sometimes it's revealed in quests, and sometimes it's revealed partly in quests. And I think those are the most fun for me, is that writing a quest where you get some clues, you get some hints, you get partial information, and then the player is kind of left to make their own conclusions. What do they, here's the evidence before your eyes. You decide what it means. And I like having players be able to take information that we give them and not just tell them, here's what is happening, here's how the world is, but I like the opportunity to say, here's what you see. Draw your own conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, what is your favorite part of the lore of Embers Adrift? What is that you enjoy the most?
I really I like the others, but unfortunately, that's because a lot of the stuff that we've kind of discussed about them is yet to be revealed, so I can't really talk too much about that. I'm hoping,
Big tease.
I'm hoping, I'm hoping very much that we can soon get some of that, start to get some of that in the game, because I think there's some really cool stuff coming with the others. Right now, I'm a big fan of the Cordoon in Grizzled Peaks. I think there's some interesting lore there in their culture and how they see the world, and I'm hoping that I don't know. It's a high level quest, so maybe players haven't had a chance to do the Cordoon Heresy, but I'm really hopeful that there'll be a follow on to that one that will delve even deeper into their society and their lore. So those are the two that I'm really excited about right now. But I'm also a big fan of the Wildren. That was one that had been an idea from many years ago when I first started. That kind of changed and evolved, and then got dropped for a while. And then when we were looking for something to put in Grizzled Peaks in this village, we kind of circled back to that, and I was able to put them in. And then I really liked the way that we handled their community and how it integrates people. So you can go, this is probably a minor spoiler alert for Grizzled Peaks, but you can go and you can join the Wildren community, and you can get a name, and you get a Wildren name. And I think that's kind of a fun little diversion from some of the other lore. You got the exiles and the marauders, and they all have their own lore, and you can go fight the exile king and the war between Heaven and the exiles. But then there's got this little community that's kind of unrelated, and they're just kind of doing their own thing in this distant corner of the world. And I kind of like that we have a little bit of variety. It's not always good guys and bad guys. There's different communities and different factions, and sometimes the bad guys are fighting each other. Sometimes you'll see the Kabbalist and the Shrieks fighting each other, or you'll see the Marauders and the Nocturnes fighting each other. So having it feel like a world where it's not just we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. It's more like we're one faction among many, and you get to go out and explore, and you'll see those other factions interacting with each other in some ways that I think makes it feel like a more engaging world.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the future for the quest, or what you doing? What's in store for us in
Before
future?
we get to that, I want to know what your favorite part of the lore is first.
For me, I think it's the general setting of having a world that you have to discover about. I really like this idea. There's stuff that happened, and you have to discover that. You have to explore. So basically, I really love our general setting. I think it's really great. I really like it. So the fact that you have this world which is not virgin, but very empty, but something happened, you have to discover what did happen here. And then you have this struggling society that try to set a foot into this and establish themselves and maybe expand themselves. And so I think that's two very interesting elements. One is the explorative aspect, or the seeking the truth and uncovering the secrets that are held. And the other one, which is we are pioneer and we're trying to settle, which are two thematic that are very dear to me. The reason being, I am a very big pacifist person. I'm a true pacifist. I'm even idealist or utopist. I'm always dreaming of a better world and about how humankind can evolve and improve themselves. And so I'm often thinking, why are we always doing stories about conflict? What is this always story about war? And what could we make a story that are as exciting as a conflict? Because a conflict is exciting. It's an exciting story, all right? but how can we make an exciting story that is not about conflict, that is not about warfare? And then there's two things that work really well, in my opinion, which is that we are exploring, discovering something, discovering an old civilization that has disappeared. We need to discover secret, understand. So it's this kind of seeking truth, like the truth seeker type of plot. And the other one is we are settler. We are building our society and we're trying to make a fair society. And how are we going to survive? How are we going to organize ourselves? So two of the thematic of Embers Adrift are my favorite subject, and I think they are really nice, especially in those time, because the warfare and the conflict are a little bit overdone. I do believe that we as humankind are going into the path of leaving that and going towards world peace, which is inevitable, someone said. I really like that. And so I think it has to illustrate through stories that we tell through medias, maybe movie, books, TV series, and video games. We have to share those ideas, those inspiration, which are exciting, interesting, but really push people into this idea that conflict is not necessary.
Yeah, that's great. I agree. I think the elements of exploration and discovery, I think, are some of the more interesting concepts that we can explore. Is, here's a mystery land, what's out there, who used to be here, what are their stories. I like the discovery, and that's, like I said, partly why we try to not spoon feed massive lore dumps. Occasionally we do, but we want to have more of my goal anyway is to give more of the here's what's out here, you decide what you think it means.
And I think that's also really exciting is to see the community theory crafting about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that is really fun, is to see like the video of Mujin not long ago where he's discussing about the other. Who are they? What are they doing? I think that's what it is. And you do have several theories that are that are being spread in the community, and it's pretty exciting to hear about that. And so
and that's what we want, is we want a dynamic community that is, like I said, we give them bits and pieces and let them sort it out for themselves.
Yeah,
it's more fun that way.
Exactly. So now it's time to go to another segment of the show, which is the community news, and I have something that is absolutely relevant to the subject, so let's go to that. Alright, so guys, we have a request. It's a request of Wade, which I made a little post about. So Wade, you will be able to discuss about why you did that. So I'm going to read this. Dear community, let's speak about quest location. In which area, which zone do you think quests are missing? Where would you love to see another quest taking part? Is there any remote location that are really cool to visit, but there's actually nothing interesting to do? I've been asking the question during our weekly Discord meeting, and we received already some answer, but I want to be sure everyone has a chance to answer. So let me know below, what are the zone and area you wish to see some quests happening? Where do you want those quests to lead you? This is a brainstorming thread. I request that everyone respect everyone else's ID, express themselves with kindness and open-mindedness, as usual. So basically, this is a feedback thread, so please use it if you have ideas. I know that we had Mino, one of our community members, that has already created a thread related to quest IDs, but here we have a specific question, which is which zone, which area do you want us to go? Wade, that was your request, so do you have anything to add to that?
I think just it's as simple as, where does the game feel empty? And I certainly have some ideas myself, but and not my experience is different from everybody else's. So I just kind of want to see if we can get a general consensus on which areas feel like, oh, this is a great area, or like maybe there's a really good particular camp that people really like, but it's just by itself out in the middle of nowhere, and you wouldn't necessarily go there if you didn't know about it. Kind of hidden gem spots, or spots where the game feels empty. We want the world to feel alive, and want you to feel like there's something interesting around any corner. You could stumble upon something interesting, and so wanting to know kind of where players have noticed, like, oh, I go to this area and there's nobody here because there's nothing to do here, or like I come here and I gotta run for 15 minutes to get to anything worth doing. Where can we put something that says, oh, well, this area is just kind of there and nobody really uses it. Maybe put a quest that goes there and says, hey, now you got to go to this spot, and that gets players more engaged with parts of the world that are kind of forgotten right now.
Nice. Genra is asking, Flooded Ruin does not have any quest, but Flooded Ruin is Ember Vein. Is it something you want to do quests in Ember Vein?
Yes, and there is some stuff in the works for the Ember Veins right now that I don't know if it will be, when it will be, but there is definitely some content for the Ember Veins coming.
Ooh, nice.
Yes, and it's something else that trying to make use of some of those areas more. So there's a couple things in the pipe that will definitely use the Ember Veins, and I can see they can be such interesting and dynamic little ecosystems that it's fun to get some people out there to run through those. So there will be some content for those coming up, and stay tuned.
Nice. Perfect. So guys, please share your feedback into this thread. If you have any idea, an area you stumble upon, you like, it could be even your favorite area, a place in the world of Embers Adrift that you really love, and you say, oh, it would be cool to have a quest to do there. So any ideas related to quest location and part of the game that will need a little bit more love, a little bit more attention, and something cool to do, please share your opinion in this thread. Thank you so very much. This is the second brainstorming ID thread I'm opening. The first one I talked about last week is brainstorming ID, the trade system. So I will put a link for those of you that are watching this on YouTube towards those two threads, give your advice about it. The trading system has already received a lot of answers and ideas, so keep them coming, guys. This is really nice. So this is very much a way of gathering feedback for specific subject we are discussing internally, and we would like to have your opinion, your desire, and make our decision out of that. So thank you very much. Related to the community news, I have to tell you that I will be missing this weekend, so I will not organize a trade fair, but please be sure to join the trade fair in New Haven City. You will see the time in the Discord event. Have a look at the Discord event. We have every week a weekly meeting on Discord with Adrift. So if you want to discuss about itemization, mob population, and all that kind of things, abilities, class balance, well, Adrift is your guy, so bring them there, and we are discussing all kind of subject, and everything that is discussed in the Discord community meeting is brought back to the team meeting where we're discussing about them, with Grimnir, for example. And so those feedback are right away discussed with the team, so you guarantee that we're discussing about whatever you're saying in this meeting. And that's about it. Next week there will not be a community show because exceptionally I will be missing the Tuesday. So we're going to skip 1 week. And there it is. That's all the news for me. So do you have anything that you want to add for concluding this show?
Yeah, I think just 2 things. I just want to thank everyone for playing the game. For the feedback, especially, letting us know what you like and don't like. I'm sure Elloa has told you a million times. It all comes internal. We see it, we read it, we think about it. Sometimes it's tough to fit everything in, but we definitely appreciate the feedback. And I just hope everyone's enjoying the enjoying the game and the content. And I would also tell you that you make sure you go to the online store and get yourself some Embers Adrift merch. It's high quality
Nice.
stuff. I wear mine all the time.
That's really cool. The only problem was the shop is that it only deliver in United States.
Oh, I didn't know that. 'Cause I think they
Yeah.
ship from like Germany.
Yeah, I don't know. I had several person from Europe that wanted to buy stuff and they could not, and me neither. But me, I can.
I unfortunately don't have any control over that.
Yeah, that's one of the sad thing. But if you're in US, you have no excuse. Buy a T-shirt for a friend and send them overseas if you can.
There you go.
There we are. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to discuss about the lore and the quest. I hope that everyone enjoyed this episode. I think it was interesting to have this kind of conversation, especially when we had so many quests coming in. We receive a lot of feedback related to those quests, so all of that is taken in account and we're discussing it internally. So please continue to give your feedback, constructive feedback. Please don't feel super offended if the drop rate is too low or something like that. Just share your feeling. Just say what you experience and what you think about it in simple word, and that's all good. And we are paying attention to all of that and then making our decision that may go in what you wish or may not go in what you wish, in the direction of what you wish, because there's different players type and different opinion, and that's also the reason why you're doing varied quests, right? So you can satisfy the adventurer, the seekers of lore, the person that want to live a story, and the people that want more simple quests that are maybe a little bit more finished and accomplished faster.
Try to have a little bit of something for everyone.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes it's not for you, and that's okay. Which is why the quests are optional and are not giving you experience, which I know some people are not happy about that, but there is a very big reason why we have not done that. It's specifically to allow us the freedom to create complicated quests with puzzle and enigma and very long harsh story that lead you in all corners of the world, which will not be efficient to progress your character, but can be a very nice source of memories and adventure with your friends. Thank you so much, Wade. Thank you everyone for watching this episode. If you're on YouTube, do not hesitate to subscribe, like, and let us a comment. Check out all of the information in the information box. And thank you, and see you soon. You take care. Bye bye, everyone.